let's talk about the thing we really want to talk about, Justin Timberlake. I've been waiting and waiting to get to this part. She says, in my personal life, I was so happy. Justin and I lived together in Orlando. We shared a gorgeous, airy, 2-story house with a tile roof and a swimming pool out back. Even though we were both working a lot, we'd make time to be home together. I always came back every few months, so Justin and I could be together for 2 weeks, sometimes even 2 months at a time. That was our home base. She says that one time her family came and they brought Jamie Lynn. Oh, Jamie Lynn. This is the start of when she starts talking about Jamie Lynn. She said they went to FAO Schwartz at Point Orlando. The whole store was closed down for them. And she said that her sister got a miniature convertible car that had actual doors that opened. She said that child in that car was unlike anything else. This adorable little girl driving around in a miniature red Mercedes. Adorable now. She said that's how we all were with Jamie Lynn. You see it, you like it, you want it, you get it. As far as I could tell, her world was the Ariana Grande song 7 Rings come to life. When I was growing up, we didn't have any money. My prized possessions were my Madame Alexander dolls. There were dozens to choose from. Their eyelids went up and down, and they all had names, some from fictional characters or historical figures, like Scarlett O'Hara or Queen Elizabeth. I had the girls from Little Women. When I got my 15th doll, you would have thought I'd hit the lottery. She says that was a time in my life that I was so in love with Justin, just smitten. I don't know if when you're younger, love's a different thing, but what Justin and I had was special. She goes on to say that their love was a sort of thing where they would just do stupid things for each other, even if everybody was watching. And that brings us to the denim on denim look they did. She says in the South, moms love to round up the kids and say, listen, we're going to church today and we're all going to color coordinate. She said that she still can't believe that Justin agreed to it, but she found out that he was going to wear denim to the 2001 American Music Awards. And she said, we could match. Let's do denim on denim. And first, honestly, she was just joking. She said, I didn't think my stylist was actually going to do it. And I never thought Justin was going to do it with me. But they both went all in. The stylist brought Justin's all denim outfit, including a denim hat to match his denim jacket and denim pants. When he put it on, I thought, whoa, I guess we're really doing this. And she said that even now, knowing that it was tacky, she still thinks it was pretty great in its own way. She says she loves to see it parodied at Halloween when people will do the whole Britney and Justin denim on denim look. And the reason she points this story out is that she said, I've heard Justin get flack for the look. On one podcast where they were teasing him about it, he said, you do a lot of things when you're young and in love. And that's exactly right. We were giddy, and those outfits reflected that. Okay, well, they were giddy at one point. It's not going to stay that way. She said there was a couple of times during our relationship when I knew Justin had cheated on me, especially because I was so infatuated and so in love. I let it go, even though the tabloids seemed determined to rub my face in it. She's so in love, but she's so scared of holding people accountable for the way they act against her. She just swallows it all. Oh, you're going to be mean to me? Okay, I'll accept that. Just don't leave. She just allows people to abuse her so terribly and so badly. But she's not going to say anything about it, because if she does, they might leave. And it would be, in her mind, it's better just to take the hit and keep the person around who says they love you. But they don't love you. If Justin loved her, he would not be running around like this. And in a way that she could even catch him. It's like he wanted her to break up with him. He's not even trying to hide it. So one of the times, and she says, when NSYNC went to London in 2000, photographers caught him with one of the girls from All Saints in a car. I never said anything. At the time, we'd been together for a year. But then another time, they were in Las Vegas. And she says, one of my dancers who'd been hanging out with him told me that he gestured toward a girl and said, yeah, man, I hit that last night. I don't want to say who he was talking about because she's actually very popular and she's married with kids now. And I don't want her to feel bad. But her friend, who, by the way, was her dancer, so it's like Justin wanted this to get back to her. She says, my friend was shocked and believed Justin was only saying it because he was high and felt like bragging. But she says that I let it all go, but clearly he slept around. And there was always rumors about him with dancers and groupies. She said it was one of those things where but you just don't say anything. I mean, just on a personal health point, though, you got to hold this guy to account because you're sleeping with him too. So, what's he bringing home to you from all the groupies? And that's when I can realize too that She just had no sense of her own safety. Like, she would put her own safety on the line to keep the peace. He's sleeping around with groupies and then getting in your bed, and you're not going to say anything about it? Like, that's how little she valued herself. She goes on to say that because she knew that he was cheating on her, she decided to cheat on him. She says, not a lot, one time, with Wade Robson. He was her choreographer. She said, we were out one night and we went to a Spanish bar and we danced, and then I made out with him that night. But she told Justin about it. She went to Justin and she said, I have only eyes for you. And she said there was one exception, and she admitted it. And he acted like he was really taking the high road in that conversation. You know, he's like, well, you know, we're both young. We'll just chalk it up to one of those things that sometimes happens when you're just being silly. And she said, Justin and I moved past it and stayed together. Yeah, well, seemingly you moved past it. Of course he was willing to offer you all this grace for it. He's over there full on sleeping with people. You admitted you made out with somebody, both not great scenarios, but if we're going to weigh which is worse, probably sleeping with dozens of groupies. I think it's outrageous that he would act like, oh yeah, that's okay. I mean, it's hard to hear, but we're young and sometimes we do stupid stuff, so I'll forgive you. It's like, oh, thanks so much, you know? So are we going to talk yet about the fact that you've cheated on me so many times you probably don't even know? I mean, no, of course that never comes up. But what's even worse is he used this confession that she had made to him, and he's just going to pocket that and use that for a later date. So to her face, he forgives her, and it's like, we don't have to break up. We can stay together. I mean, it's hard that you told me that, but thanks for being honest. And then later he's going to act like she did some egregious thing to him, completely covering up the fact that he was the one in the wrong 100% this entire relationship. So after they get past that, she finds out that she's pregnant. Well, it was a surprise, she says, but for me, it wasn't a tragedy. I loved Justin so much, I always expected us to have a family together one day. This would just be much earlier than I'd anticipated. And besides, what was done was done. Yeah, what are you going to do about it now? You two have created a life. So what are you going to do about it now? You know? Well, Justin's got an answer. Let's snuff it out. He definitely wasn't happy about the pregnancy. He said we weren't ready for a baby in our lives and that we were way too young. But you guys have more money than anybody could ever imagine. The two of those two, I mean, it's like people say we're too young to have a baby because they don't know how they're going to carry on with life, how they can manage the responsibilities and the financial aspect of it. Having a baby is not a tragedy by any stretch of the imagination. The hardship comes in when I don't know how I'm going to financially pay to have this baby, and I need help that I don't have. That's what having a baby, that's the hard part of having a baby. But those are not the things that you can't actually fix, you know? And that actually goes for anybody. And this isn't the podcast to talk about all of that, but it's like, quite seriously, if you find yourself pregnant, there are so many resources for you. There's so much help that you can get and that people want to give you. So it's never a tragedy. The spark of life is never a tragedy. But we live in a society in which we're constantly told, you have to stop doing everything you want to do when you want to do it. Oh, you don't want that. A baby's going to totally rain on your parade. Don't do that. Just be done with it. Just be done with it. And you never have to think about it again. But it doesn't work like that. And even as Britney's telling us this story, we know it doesn't work like this. Like, I think that this was the beginning of the end for her as far as her being able to hold it together. She says that regardless of the fact that they were filthy rich, she allowed him to convince her that they couldn't handle having a baby. And she says, if he didn't want to be a father, I didn't feel like I had much of a choice. I wouldn't want to push him into something that he didn't want. Our relationship was too important to me. And so I'm sure people will hate me for this, but I agreed not to have the baby. She says, abortion was something I never would have imagined choosing for myself, but given the circumstances, that is what we did. I don't know if that was the right decision. If it had been left up to me alone, I never would have done it. And yet Justin was so sure that he didn't want to be a father. We also decided on something that in retrospect wound up being, in my view, wrong. And that was that I should not go to a doctor or to a hospital to have the abortion. It was important that no one find out about the pregnancy or the abortion, which meant doing everything at home. We didn't even tell my family. The only person who knew besides Justin and me was Felicia, who was always on hand to help me. But I was told it might hurt a little bit, but you'll be fine. That lie, I think, is the thing that bothers me so very much about the abortion pill, along with a lot of other things. But that lie is so wrong. How are you going to hand somebody a pill that it won't hurt and that'll just be a little bit of bleeding? You know, you might feel some cramps. You're giving birth alone, and what comes out is a tiny baby. I mean, it's very clearly human. And even a little 8-week-old is very clearly human. It's not like a tissue. It's not like just a bloody mass, you know, and it's so shocking. I mean, I've read so many accounts of women who have been sold the lie that this pill is just a nothing. It's gonna be like a heavy period. You might be a little crampy. And then women are laying on the bathroom floor trying to pass this. And then when you do, you find out, hey, it wasn't just a period. You know, and it's always, I mean, there's so many accounts of women being utterly shocked by what they ended up experiencing because nothing was told to them as far as what it was actually going to be like. The deception is so wild to me. And if it's just okay to just take this pill and it's nothing, okay, well, then why are you being so shady about what it's actually going to be like when I experience it? Why are doctors not telling people what it's actually going to be like? Why is it so shrouded in mystery? If it's all just okay and it's not going to leave a scar and you're not going to feel anything and it's not a big deal and it's just a period. It isn't. And Britney goes on to say that it wasn't. She said, on the appointed day with only Felicia and Justin there, I took the little pills. Soon I started having excruciating cramps. I went into the bathroom and I stayed there for hours lying on the floor sobbing and screaming. They should have numbed me with something, I thought. I wanted some kind of anesthesia. I wanted to go to the doctor. I was so scared. I lay there wondering if I was going to die. When I tell you it was painful, I can't begin to describe it. The pain was unbelievable. I went down to the ground on my knees holding the toilet. For a long time, I couldn't move. To this day, it's one of the most agonizing things I have ever experienced in my life. Still, they didn't take me to the hospital. Justin came into the bathroom and lay on the floor with me. And at some point, he thought maybe music would help. So he got his guitar and lay there with me, strumming it. And I can tell you right now that nothing would have made me just out of my mind with rage to be laying there trying to pass the child that he didn't want. And then he's got the gall to lay there and strum on his guitar, trying to make the moment about him and his musical talent. Get out of here with that. Take your little sorry guitar and go away. You know, let me just lay here with you and just strum this. Why would that help? I kept crying and sobbing until it was all over. It took hours. And I don't remember how it ended, but I do, 20 years later, remember the pain of it and the fear. After that, I was messed up for a while, especially because I still love Justin so much. It was insane how much I loved him, and for me, it was unfortunate. I should have seen the breakup coming, but I didn't. Yeah, I mean, like, what kind of a guy is like, hey, I have every resource in the world, there's no reason for us not to have a baby, and then just be like, but we're not going to. I don't want a kid with you. I mean, if he doesn't want to have kids with you and like you're expecting, he's not the one for you. He doesn't love you. I mean, he hasn't loved her this whole time, cheating on her like this, like all of the cheating, and then you get pregnant and he's like, kill it. He doesn't love you. So, but she's not in the mental space to be able to hear that he doesn't love her. She can't even take that in. Clearly she can't take it in because all of the indications, I mean, it's not like sitting around with your girlfriends being like, he did this and I don't really know what it means. He's cheated on you with groupies constantly and knows you know about it. He's telling people so that they'll tell you, the tabloids are telling you, then you get pregnant and he's like, I don't want it. He's screaming to you, I want it to be over. But again, she's incapable of accepting that message. Well, remember that little tidbit she gave him? Hey, I did make out with this one guy. I'm really sorry. I only have eyes for you. Will you forgive me? Yes, Brittany, it's hard to hear, but I do forgive you. Well, he didn't. He took it and he was like, yes, ammunition. So he starts working on his solo album, Justified. Now, Justin was having a hard time with a solo career. He's trying to break away from NSYNC and do his own thing, but he was having a hard time. Well, how are you going to make it so that you can become rich and famous really fast and as a solo artist? Well, you use and abuse a relationship you just had with a super famous person. She says, when Justin began making his first solo album, Justified, he started being very standoffish with me. I think that was because he decided to use me as ammunition for his record. And so it made it awkward for him to be around me, staring at him with all that affection and devotion. Ultimately, he ended our relationship by text message while I was on the set for the video for Overprotected Remix by Darkchild. After seeing the message, as I sat in my trailer between takes, I had to go back out and dance. For as much as Justin hurt me, there was a huge foundation of love. And when he left me, I was devastated. When I say devastated, I mean I could barely speak for months. Whenever anyone asked me about him, all I could do was cry. I don't know if I was clinically in shock, but it felt that way. Hey, sweet Britney, I mean, yeah, no wonder you're devastated. You killed your baby for this man so he would stay with you, and then he left anyway. How could you not be devastated? Everyone who knew me thought something was wrong with me, and really wrong. I went back to Kentwood, and I couldn't talk to my family or friends. I barely left the house. I was that messed up. I lay in my bed and stared at the ceiling. Justin flew out to Louisiana to visit me. He brought me a long letter he'd written and framed. How grandiose, what an egomaniac to write a letter and then frame it like, I know you're gonna want to keep this. She said, though, that she still has it under her bed. And at the end it said, and she says, it makes me want to cry to think about it, I can't breathe without you. And those are the last words in it. Reading that, I thought, damn, he's a good writer. Because that was exactly how I felt. It almost felt like I was suffocating, like I couldn't breathe after all that had happened. The thing is, though, even before I saw him and read the letter, I didn't come out of the trance. He did all that. He came there to see me, and I still couldn't talk to him or anybody. Britney, don't give him credit for this. He feels guilty for what he did. He's trying to placate his own conscience. But even in all of the actions of it, what's he trying to do? Is he trying to rekindle the romance? What kind of bravado is this? To show up with a letter that he's framed that's like, I can't breathe without you. But he's not trying to rekindle the romance. He's not trying to get back together with you. He's trying to make it okay to himself that he did this to you, that he used you, destroyed you so he could keep on with his own career. You know, and you're over there like, I mean, he tried so hard. I was just in a bad place. It was hard to concentrate on what he was saying. But yeah, you're in a bad place because the guy cheated on you for years, then forced you to get an abortion. And then I was like, by the way, I'm going to use that little nugget of a confession you gave me so my career can explode and yours can implode. Them's the break. Sorry, Britney. I mean, what in the world? So she's struggling. She's struggling after this breakup. I mean, it sends her reeling, but it's not just the breakup, it's the abortion too. I mean, she says she wasn't right after that abortion for a really long time. And then of course, Justin turns on her. So she says, even though the last thing I wanted to do was perform, I still had tour dates left in my contract. So I went back out to finish them. All I wanted was to get off the road and to have days and nights all by myself. At the time she was doing this Dream Within a Dream tour, which she said was amazing. The sets, the choreography, everything was amazing. And she had loved it at first. But now I can't keep slogging through this. This is terrible. I need this to end. At the time too, she just wanted to quit. I mean, she just wanted to quit everything. The tour ended. And in fact, the last date of the tour was rained out by a thunderstorm. So they were able to just be done. And she went straight home to Louisiana. But her people were worried about it because they're like, hey. You know, you're still on top as far as anybody else knows. You know, you're still riding high. You can't just disappear like this. You need to have like the next plan. We got to know what's coming up next. She said when she told everybody that she just was finished and wanted to rest, everyone seemed nervous. And when you're successful at something, there's a lot of pressure to just keep on doing the next thing. She said in order to not disappear, she did an interview with People magazine back in Louisiana for reasons that seemed ridiculous to me. I wasn't promoting anything, but my team thought that I should show that I was doing well and just taking a little break. The photographer shot me outside and then inside the house with the dogs and my mom on the couch. They had me empty out my purse to reveal that I wasn't carrying drugs or cigarettes. All they found was juicy fruit, gum, vanilla perfume, mints, and a little bottle of St. John's wort. My daughter's doing beautifully, my mother told the reporter confidently. She's never, ever been close to a breakdown. So if there's any questions about that, that can just go straight out the window because my daughter's fine. No, your daughter's not fine. She, like everybody else in the family, is having a breakdown. That's what really made this difficult was the fact that Justin's family had become her own family. She had stopped feeling a lot of solace with her own family a while back. They're so dysfunctional. She was glad to leave them behind and take on Justin's family, and they brought her right into the fold. She says that for holidays, the only family I would go to visit was his. I knew his grandmother and his grandfather, and I loved them so much. I thought of them as home. My mom would come out and visit us every once in a while, but she's not what I went home to, ever. She says my mom was trying to recover from her divorce from my dad, which she'd finally gone through with. Depressed and self-medicating, she could barely get off the couch. My dad was nowhere to be found. And my little sister, well, when I tell you that she was a total bitch, I'm not exaggerating. I had always been the worker bee. While I was doing my thing on the road with Felicia, I hadn't been paying attention to what was happening in Kentwood. But when I came home, I saw how things had changed. My mom would serve Jamie Lynn while she watched TV, bringing her little chocolate milkshakes. It was clear that girl ruled the roost. Meanwhile, it was like I was a ghost child. I can remember walking into the room and feeling like no one even saw me. That feeling of childhood again. Jamie Lynn only saw the TV. My mom, who at one time had been the person I was closest to in the world, was on another planet. And the way adolescent Jamie Lynn spoke to my mother, my mouth would just drop. I'd listen to her spew these hateful words, and I'd turn to my mom and say, "Are you going to let that little witch talk to you like that?" I mean, she was bad. I felt betrayed by how Jamie Lynn had changed. I'd bought a house for Jamie Lynn to grow up in. She was not exactly grateful for it. She'd later say, "Why'd she get us a house?" Like it was some sort of imposition. But that house had been a gift. I'd bought it because our family had needed a new house, and I'd wanted her to have a better life than I had. Life in Louisiana had passed me by. I felt like I had no one to talk to. Going through that breakup, going home and seeing how much I didn't fit in anywhere anymore, I realized that I was technically growing up and becoming a woman, and yet honestly, it was almost like I went backward at the same time and became younger in my mind. Have you seen The Curious Case of Benjamin Button? That's how I felt. Somehow that year, in becoming more vulnerable, I started to feel like a child again. And I don't feel like she's necessarily changed. I feel like that keeps working. I think that there is a enormous naivete to the way she moves throughout the world. All right, chapter 15. This is our last chapter in this part. She says that she felt like she needed to just get out of the house and get her confidence back. So in 2002, she went to a party hosted by Donatella Versace. She had invited Britney to Italy to attend one of her runway shows. She says, Donatella dressed me in a beautiful sparkly rainbow dress. I was supposed to sing, but I really didn't feel like it. So after I did a little bit of posing, Donatella said that we could take it easy. She played my cover of Joan Jett's I Love Rock and Roll and said hi to the models, and then we were done. Then it was party time. Donatella is known for her lavish parties, and there was all sorts of cool people there. That party was really the first thing I did to put myself out there a little bit after the breakup with Justin, on my own. Innocent. She says during the party, she noticed this guy, and she remembers thinking he was super, super cute. He was probably Brazilian, dark hair, handsome. He was smoking a blunt. And she says that she just kind of wanted to hook up with him. She says that he was more like a real man, the kind of man that you have a one-night stand with. So she decided that she would invite him to her house. She said eventually we started talking, and I decided I'd like to have drinks with him at my hotel. We headed to my car, but during the drive, he did something that just turned me off. Honestly, I can't even remember what it was, which I hate. I really want to know what it was. But it was a little thing that really irritated me, so I told the driver to pull over. And without saying a word, I kicked that guy out to the side of the road and I left him there. Now that I'm a mom, I'd never do anything like that. I'd be more like, I'll drop you off at this place at this time. But back then, at 20 years of age, it was pure instinct. I'd made a bad mistake letting this stranger inside my car, and I kicked him out. Well, I'm glad that she received some power from doing that. I think that's the sort of thing she probably needed to do. Not feel like just because she'd asked him into the car, now she owed him something. She didn't. So I'm glad that she realized in that moment, I've made a mistake, and I can still reverse course here. Well, I wish that she'd had a few more moments like that building up to what's going to happen now that Justin's touring for his album Justified, because she needed a few more times under her belt in which she had had power. She says, soon after my return, Justin was preparing to release his solo album Justified. On 2020, he played an unreleased song for Barbara Walters called Don't Go, Horrible Woman. And that seemed like it was about me. I thought our love was so strong. I guess I was dead wrong. but to look at it positively. Hey girl, at least you gave me a song about another horrible woman. Less than a month later, he released the video for his song Cry Me a River, in which a woman who looks like me cheats on him and he wanders around sad in the rain. In the news media, I was described as a harlot who'd broken the heart of America's golden boy. The truth is, I was comatose in Louisiana, and he was happily running around Hollywood. May I just say that on his explosive album and in all the press that surrounded it, Justin neglected to mention the several times he cheated on me? There's always been more leeway in Hollywood for men than for women. And I see how men are encouraged to talk trash about women in order to become famous and powerful. But I was shattered. The thought of my betraying him gave the album more angst, and it gave it a purpose, shit-talking an unfaithful woman. The hip-hop world of that era loved a storyline, with the theme, F you, bitch. Getting revenge on women for perceived disrespect was all the rage at the time. Eminem's violent revenge song, Kim, was huge. And the only problem with the narrative was that in our case, it wasn't like that. Cry Me a River did very well. Everyone felt very sorry for him. And it shamed me. She says, I felt like there was no way at the time to tell my side of the story. I couldn't explain because I knew no one would take my side once Justin had convinced the world of his vision. After Cry Me a River came out, anywhere I went, I got booed. I would go to clubs and I would hear boos. Once I went to a Lakers game with my little sister and one of my brother's friends, and the whole place, the whole arena, booed me. Justin told everyone that he and I had had a sexual relationship, which some people have pointed out depicted me as not only cheating, but also a liar and a hypocrite. Given that I had so many teenage fans, my manager and press people had long tried to portray me as an eternal virgin. Never mind that Justin and I had been living together and I'd been having sex since I was 14. Was I mad at being outed by him as sexually active? No. To be honest with you, I liked that Justin said that. Why did my managers work so hard to claim I was some kind of a young girl virgin, even into my 20s? Whose business was it if I'd had sex or not? I'd appreciated it when Oprah told me on her show that my sexuality was no one else's business, and that when it came to virginity, you don't need a world announcement if you change your mind. And I think, that was just like the dumbest lie of all time. Why are you trying to whitewash Britney's image by being like, but she's not sleeping around? What difference does it make at this point? She's on stage, ripping her clothes off and, dancing really sexy, but the lyrics of her songs are about sex. It's all that, but she's still a virgin. At this point, what difference would it make? Why does that distinction need to happen? What parent is going to be like, I support you dressing like Britney, singing Britney songs, dancing like Britney, but I hope you're keeping your virginity? It's like a parent who would support all of that probably doesn't care. They'd probably just be like, don't forget your birth control. It's just the stupidest lie of all time. It was such an unnecessary lie. No other part of her public persona was supporting that image. She says, though, that as a child, I'd always had a guilty conscience, a lot of shame, a sense that my family thought I was just plain bad. The sadness and the loneliness that would hit me felt like my fault somehow, like I deserved unhappiness and bad luck. I knew the truth of our relationship was nothing like how it was being portrayed, but I still imagined that if I was suffering, I must have deserved it. Along the line, surely I'd done bad things, and I believed in karma, and so when bad things happen, I imagined that's just the law of karma catching up with me. So somehow, through all of this, even though he is doing the wrong things, even though he is destroying her image, even though he is saying, here I was, this poor guy, totally in love with her, and then she cheated on me. Lie. And then somehow she ends up feeling like it's her fault. Somehow she's like, well, I guess I deserve this. I don't really exactly know how I deserve it. I don't really recall anything that I did that deserves this kind of vindictive revenge, but I must have done something wrong at some point. And that's why I deserve this. What? Her self-image is so sad. And, I want to be really careful with that word and with that talk about self-image, because I think that there's a lot of broken therapy language out there that's like, you just have to be full of your own self, and you just have to love yourself, and you need to forget everybody else and just think about you. And it's all about, you need to make sure that you're making time for yourself all the time, and you just need to make sure that your cup is filled all the time. And that's how you're going to get a lot of self-worth, is by basically worshiping at the altar of you. Demonic. I don't believe in any of that. But what I'm saying is she has believed the lie about herself for so long that she is worthless, that she needs to do things in order to earn love, that love is conditional. And if people are mean to you, then somehow you deserve that. I mean, she's believed that for so long about herself. She needs somebody to help her understand her intrinsic value as a human being. And then start from that point, you know, not just sit there and worship herself, but just to realize, no, people can't treat me like this. She goes on for a long stint talking about how the way she made sense of it all was just to believe that she was under some kind of a curse, that there was something that she should have done, she needs to pay for something that she's done from her past, that, you know, I didn't handle things well after the abortion. The breakup was really hard for me to handle. And so because I didn't handle that well, Justin was just really upset by maybe how I was acting after the abortion. And so maybe there's like something I did to make him this mad, and I guess I just deserve it. She ends the chapter by saying, though, that she and a friend of hers who had recently also had a breakup with a guy who happened to be one of Justin's good friends, decided to go out and take a drive out in the desert. They're going to go stay somewhere in Arizona. So they took a convertible and they just started driving through the desert. And she says both she and the friend, like, they weren't listening to any music, they were just driving. And somewhere out in the middle of the Arizona desert, she started to feel some kind of energy. And she didn't say anything to the friend because she felt like if she said anything, she was going to look crazy. But it was like a powerful energy, like almost life-giving. And she wasn't sure what it was. She's like, is it aliens? Is it like a spiritual energy? Is it God? And then suddenly her friend says to her, do you feel that? And the friend had also picked up on whatever energy this was. And she said they just drove and held hands and like communed with this spirit that was like hovering over them. I don't know what to make of that passage, but she says that whatever energy it was made her feel like she could go on, and that she would turn a corner, and that this energy would sustain her. So she ends the chapter by saying she thinks it was God. And I'm not sure what she experienced. I'm clearly a person who believes in God. And I'm a person who believes that God reaches out to us in a variety of ways. And sometimes the way he reaches out to one person is very, very unique. And the way he reaches out to another person, of course, is unique. Because since we are all created as individuals, he knows that what we need is many times an individual touch. So what she experienced might not be what I've experienced or what you've experienced. But I believe God reaches out to us in a number of different ways. And so maybe she did experience his love in that moment, in a like almost celestial way of just like a power from heaven. Like the sky was beautiful and the night air was beautiful, and she felt his presence in that. So I don't know, very interesting.